Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one is going to be for Season 3, Episode 7, The Imperial Super Commandos. Not doing this one on camera just because by the time the episode came out, the light was super bad, so audio only this time out, but hopefully I'll be able to do it on camera for the rest of them. So, yeah, this was I think it's a pretty good episode. I think the action in this episode was really fun. Mandalorians and just the kind of technology, weaponry they tend to use is always fun to see. The only weakness to the episode would be that it didn't really have a lot of impact. Like, what did this episode really accomplish by the end? Okay, Fen Rao is now, like, properly, without being forced to, he is allied now with the rebellion, and that's cool that they have a actual, high-level Mandalorian kind of commando on their side, and he will add a lot to their tactics just with regards to being such a high-level Mandalorian. And he also, I suppose, adds this kind of more kind of older character who's also a Mandalorian that Sabine can learn, I suppose, the last little bit of being a Mandalorian that she needs to learn, and there may be some kind of dynamics going on there. The episode also brought up the idea of Sabine's mother with the enemy Imperial Mandalorian, Gar Saxon, that she is allied with the Empire too, and that they're really aware of this. I still think they're being, like, incredibly vague about Mandalore and everything that's really going on with the clans, and, like, what on earth are they trying to do, in that it doesn't really feel like it's some sort of a character arc that they're setting up for Sabine, in that, like, what did this episode really do? Like, it's sort of, she got a bit annoyed by that she seems to really care about her mother. Okay, but are we at some point in this season or next season or whatever going to ever address Sabine's mother and address her past, why her leaving the Imperial school was an actual issue? It's just little things like that kind of really stop this episode from being anything more than just kind of like, okay, another episode, a little bit more impact than some of them, but still not amazing. In that this could have been a really cool Sabine character episode. It's just that they didn't really focus on any, like, interesting aspects of her character. It was just Sabine got a chance to do some cool stuff, flying the jetpack, some cool fights happened, Ezra got some stuff to do, and new Imperial Super Commandos. I don't really feel like the introduction of the Empire now having a couple of Mandalorians on their side that are allied to them is that impactful, unless we start seeing Mandalorians with the Empire in most of the battles coming up. But I don't think that will be the case. I think they will save a lot of these characters to return whenever the next Mandalorian-focused episode comes up. I don't really get why it's such a big setup that, like, Fen Rao and Gar Saxon hate each other. It doesn't really have a lot of impact to it, in that I assume there's going to be a showdown between the two of them, and maybe Sabine will be involved as well, and so on. But if one of them just kills the other one, I don't really care all that much, because I don't think Fen Rao is massively amazing as a character. The only thing they seem to set up is that, say what you will about Fen Rao, he is, loyal to the Mandalorian way, in that he begins to trust Sabine once he sees that Sabine, even though she's more allied with other people and has kind of separated herself from the Mandalorian, still kind of keeps that Mandalorian spirit going on, and with regards to the way she treats her own comrades is the same way that Mandalorians treat each other, whereas Gar Saxon and his men from the Imperials don't treat each other that way. And, I will say, Gar Saxon as a villain in this episode was actually pretty interesting. I like that he was just established to be, like, reasonably intelligent, that he wasn't listening at all really to any of the kind of stories that Ezra was making up, that he knew Ezra had information, and if he just let Ezra talk, he kind of eventually forced him to kind of spill out what he needed to do. It's just going to take a lot of time. It was interesting in that sense, and he was somewhat of a threat being another high level Mandalorian. It's just, again, the overall impact of the episode didn't really feel massively strong, in that you can really see the formula of these episodes. It's kind of like, here's a Kanan episode. Ezra and Chopper go with Kanan, do something related to Kanan, and come back. Sabine, bring Ezra and Chopper with you, go off, do something. Here's the Phantom 2, come back and do something. Here's Ezra and Hera's episode, that wasn't too long ago, and the same thing. It's another one of those episodes where the only thing accomplished is that the Rebellion now has another person allied with them, and the Empire now has Mandalorians allied with them. I felt they completely brushed over the fact that Mandalore is or Concord Dawn, as we saw it, is half a moon. Is that the way it always was, or did something happen that caused half of the moon to be destroyed? It didn't feel like there was any weight to the episode. That it should have been relatively big, but it really wasn't. The highlight of the episode was that amazing jetpack chase scene where Sabine grabbed one of the other Mandalorians' jetpacks. She grabbed Ezra. That was a kind of fun little moment between them, in that they're sort of teasing a little bit of kind of closeness between them, and that she respects him. She's able to see that he can take care of himself. But again, once again, it's still almost completely on Ezra's side, that he's when she grabs him, oh, wow, we're close. But after that, he kind of just settled down and is just into the battle. But just a little thing. I don't really know if they're trying to do anything with Ezra and Sabine, because she hasn't shown anything too heavily that she actually cares about him in that way, at least yet. But the action scene was great. Especially the moment when they pass a cliff face. Ezra drops off for a second, jumps onto another Mandalorian, wrecks his backpack, and you think Ezra's just going to fall to his death because he's kind of completely miscalculated. But Sabine herself stops her jetpack, jumps onto a rock, dives off again in the opposite direction, grabs Ezra, and they're off again. It was a really smooth sequence that worked really nicely. And then it was just cool the way it was kind of constantly going on. I like that one of the things they did here was that they didn't have the Mandalorians just spraying fire all over the place. It felt like they were kind of really planning their shots so that either the shots would hit, and we saw a few shots hit and the damage the jetpack and stuff like that, separate Ezra and Sabine, or Ezra would deflect them. Very few of the shots actually missed, unlike the stormtroopers. I like that they kept that detail in there. But really, I think that's about all I want to say with the episode. There wasn't a lot to it. As I said, the core of the episode was basically Fen Rao trying to escape during this incident. They kind of say okay, the protectors, the rest of his men are killed, and there's a big moment for him when he realizes that if he hadn't been captured, he also would have been killed during this attack as well. And he really sees for the first time the extent of the Mandalorians kind of betraying Mandalore and going over to the Empire. And it's an interesting aspect to add to the character of Fen Rao, and I suppose Sabine to some extent as well. More references to Clan Vizsla and all this, but I still think they need to be a lot clearer with what on earth they're trying to do with Sabine as a character. It feels like they for some reason don't want to give her any flaw, any real emotional arc with her character. It's just, she's a Mandalorian, so she's kind of involved in this other important stuff that we've set up before, and she can fight really good. Where is the character depth? And it's the same case with a lot of the Rebels characters, admittedly, but she definitely is one of the ones where you're just what are they doing with her? But we'll see where they go from here with her. It was a good episode. Not amazing, but definitely good, better than a lot of the episodes we've had so far. And I'm interested to see where they go from here with the series. I do want the plot to come back into play. I want to see Darth Maul, now that he knows roughly where Obi-Wan is, or how he figures out that. Are we going to get that potentially solo one-off episode of Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan, or what? The main plot and stuff like that. When's that going to come back into play with the holocrons and all that sort of stuff? That's what I'm interested in. These, again, I think we're settling down kind of into the usual way the Rebel seasons tend to go, in that we start off strong with a couple of episodes, and then like, okay, let's have Ezra have an episode, let's have Sabine have an episode. Nothing super important happens before we get to the mid-season finale, then we can have something important happen, then another couple of events happen, and stuff like that. The formula's coming back into play again. I wish they treated episodes more like kind of anything can happen, rather than you always knowing that nothing can happen until the mid-season and then actual finales. So, yeah. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode. I'll just end by saying, link to my Twitter and Tumblr are in the description if you want to follow me on social media. Link to my Patreon campaign and also my PayPal donation link are in the description if you want to help support my channel so I can make more videos, better videos. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.